6:07 p.m., Wednesday, January 8th. This is the Smart Growth Meeting for Westchester Borough Council. I'm Nicole Shimoni here as your chair, and with me is Lisa Dorsey and Bernie Flynn. We're calling this to order, and we'll start with announcements. The first announcement is that there is a hearing for the Chapter 112 zoning ordinance amendment, building height, on February 19th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Any other announcements? None? All right. Comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda.
Tom Walsh, Historical Commission. I would like to hand this out to you. And I've asked Sally to put the finished product as we meet this month on the agenda for Smart Growth next month. July 26, 2025 is the 200th anniversary of Lafayette coming to Westchester. We are planning a couple of events. This is the faux dinner. It is based on material that is in Feuille and Cope's 1881 edition. We have a tentative program lined up. We have more people to sign up. And I'll give you each a copy. This and next month. As I say, it will be a faux dinner. There will be no food or drink. We hope to hold it in Courthouse Number 1. We were over there a year and a half ago. We got permission to go in, so we've got details to pull together. We're hoping to have at that faux dinner people in costume of 1826. If any of you are willing to dress up, you may, and you can give one of the toast. We'll be there, so keep that in mind. And that's all I really have to say tonight. You have it. Look it over. It is incomplete. We don't have all the people signed up for the toasting yet. We have to verify the music and so on and so on. But that's the game plan, and we are hoping this is the first event that gets approved. We are also going to try and have a mini parade involving the county, very short, very little blockage, and that will wind its way up by Lafayette Street where Lafayette stood. And there may be a even smaller 9 or 10 p.m. after the History Center's event that same evening at 44 West, with Lafayette hanging out the window of the old skateboard shop. That's where he stayed in 1826, on the corner room on the second floor. So thank you. And you have one of our drafts right now, and we'll continue working. Thank you. We're hoping no cost. We're hoping the county doesn't charge us for the use of courtroom number 1, and they should be part of the event anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional comments? All right, seeing none, we will move to the director's report.
Okay, good evening. Director's report. For HARB, first of all, there's no new land development submissions this month. For last month, HARB the items to present are listed on the agenda. Regarding statistics for building and housing for the month of December, for rental inspections, we had 58 total, which included 18 student rentals. We issued 23 permits. We had 18 property maintenance cases reported. We had 1 disruptive conduct report received. We issued 1 citation, which was for a trash violation, and we issued 2 trash tickets. That's it for the.
Okay. Any information on the past citations any updates on the past citations and where we are?
I don't believe so for December. If you want to bring up the citation tracker bill that was included in the packet. No, that's permits. It's an Excel spreadsheet. No, it's another Excel spreadsheet. There's a lot this month. I don't believe so. I believe in the month of November, there was a conviction which led to the 3 points issued against the property, which we discussed. But in December, we issued 1 new citation. No, it's points tracker. It might be labeled as Phil. You don't, I can send that to you tomorrow, but I don't believe so, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have 2 questions for you. The rental permits,
Mm-hmm.
what's the outstanding balance between 23 and 24 on the rental permits? Have we gone through them all and collected the ones that are due for 24?
We've cashed all the checks of the ones that have been submitted. However, now we're in what we call the collection process. We're going after those individuals who did not pay for their rental permit fee in 2024.
So that means you're going to send out a second notice? Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay, so who's doing that? When are we doing it? And do you have enough help to do it?
We don't have enough help, no. The administrative assistant, Wendy, does that. She was working on that right before the Christmas break. So I need to follow up and find out where she's at in the process. But she had the list. We've identified those individuals, and we're working on sending out that second mailing. I would have to get you the date that they were actually mailed.
Yeah, I'd be happy to see that on Tuesday. That way there we know how far out of balance we are as far as money is concerned and how many permits people didn't apply for.
Mhm.
You know, they may have applied for them
Paid.
and somehow they're, you'll know at the second mailing whether they sent the money in or not.
Correct. But I'll get you that information for
Yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. Because I personally just got a notice from Berkheimer
Okay.
from 2022
Mm-hmm.
where I thought I sent in my $10.
Sure.
And they said, no, you didn't. And who can find a check from 2022?
Mhm.
So it was just easier to send them another check for $10. That was the for the borough. It was the my permit, to have an apartment. So it was a business permit. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So the COVID really messed things up, and we're still trying to catch up from those things.
Yes.
More importantly, I'm worried about the money,
Mhm.
and the inspection moving forward with the third party,
Mhm.
getting through all 4,000, whatever they are,
Over 5.
apartments, hopefully we'll get caught up.
That's the
And-
goal.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay.
Well, I think you sent over a question that you had for us, and I'd responded that if you wanted to bring that up here, you could, the short-term rental piece.
I was going to bring that up under new business as when we went through the motions. I can bring that up now, but I was going to tie that into the other motions regarding to direct the solicitor to attend the zoning board cases, but we can talk about that now, if you like.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure. Let me find that. So as you all have been made aware, we received 10 applications for short-term rentals. There's actually 6 applicants because 2 individuals each applied for three permits. One property owner today, Mr. Zukin, who submitted 3 applications, did grant the zoning hearing board a continuance. So right now, the zoning hearing board has 7 hearings to schedule. That being said, for the solicitors, for all the solicitors involved to have time to prepare, I would like to ask the committee tonight, even though it's not formally on the agenda, for what direction the committee wants to take in terms of sending the solicitor to those hearings. Do you want to send the solicitor in to oppose those applications, to take no stance? And we're just looking.
I mean, my assumption is if they they're going through like the application process. So I'm assuming they're not going to a hearing unless you guys have done the checks and balances to make sure that they deserve to go to a hearing. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Like
they
that
all
they're in town center and all
qualify
of those
to,
things.
right, they all qualify to apply for a special exception through the zoning hearing board. They've all submitted complete applications.
I would also add, if I can, if you don't mind, Sally, I would say whenever a special exception is being heard by the zoning hearing board, we would tend to recommend the solicitor not attend, because to comply with a special exception standard should be really explicitly stated in the ordinance, and it should be as black and white as possible. So if the applicant can demonstrate to the zoning hearing board that they meet A, B, C, and D, then they should get it. That really comes down to whether you think in any one of those particular applications, there's some extenuating circumstance you would want the board to attach to any condition of approval. But as far as, standing up for the code, so to speak, which I think is a lot when we ask this of you, it's not really an issue in cases of special exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Did you guys see anything that were red flags where you thought somebody should?
No, I mean, all the applications were sufficiently completed with appropriate, what we call plot plan drawings, application fee, and they filled out the applications appropriately. It's just a matter of the zoning hearing board now deciding to permit the use.
I visited everybody that's on the list. I also went through Chesco Views to see who owned the properties. I went there to see the parking requirements, whether they actually had enough parking. We changed that parking thing so many times. I'm gonna have to go back and try to reread what the parking requirements are. I know that we said initially they had to provide parking on the property or with it or across the street from the property. Like I said, we've changed it so many times, I don't remember. And
That's still it.
looking at some of the houses, it's going to be very, to me, how, without doing stacked parking. And I know stacked parking, Mr. Metrick, we talked about that before. It's allowable, correct? It's confusing. Yeah. Yeah. Ms. Ramsey, do you remember whether you're allowed to do stacked parking?
And that's where my memory's
Yeah,
headed,
yeah.
so.
Accurate.
Ramsey, can you put on the microphone so people can hear what you thought we knew?
I believe that the stack parking was part of the zoning changes that were not part of this ordinance. This ordinance, I think, requires that each short-term rental has one parking space or a space at a garage available.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and they have to get a parking permit for, I mean, what do you call it when you buy a space in the garage? What they-
Yeah, I think they have to prove that they have a monthly permit.
Monthly
or-
rental,
Or
yeah,
something
monthly
of
rental.
that sort, yeah.
Yeah,
That will be part of the permit application process. So first they have to go to the zoning hearing board, have the use approved. Once the use is approved by the zoning hearing board, then they can begin the application for their permit for the short-term rental, which is a separate process. And at that time, they would have to adhere to the parking requirements listed in the ordinance and apply for their rental inspection, et cetera.
yeah. It's the, I knew where most of the houses were, except for a couple. And you know what? The ones I didn't know are the nicest houses on the block. For example, the one on West Minor Street, across the street from Brian Negel's office, beautiful outside. And it's almost the nicest house on the block. But they do have parking out back, so that wouldn't be a problem. But some of the properties, like on 11 West Bernard, there's only spot for one car. And the short-term rental application is for the first floor, and he has an apartment on the second floor. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I guess you guys will work through that. Parking was the only thing that is a little confusing still, so.
And the ordinances are on the website on our short-term rental page to make it easy for the applicants. And I haven't received any questions from any of the applicants at this time. So the first step will, get through the zoning hearing board and get that approval before they can then begin the permit application process.
Yeah, as we go through that process, are you going to be working hand in glove with the parking department, with Ramsey, to make sure that they have the exact parking that they need so they don't impact the neighborhoods?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, isn't that part of your job, Sally? I mean, isn't that part of your role in buildings and grounds and codes enforcement is, following the ordinances that have been passed? I mean, I'm,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially, the requirements of the permit application, and parking is why I can't recite it to you right now. It is in the ordinance that it will be part of the
Right.
permit application, the parking requirement. So we're going to flag it from the beginning. If we receive a permit application and they don't adhere to justifying their parking, I believe we ask for a diagram and they have to sign the application, all the information that
Yeah.
they're providing is true. Yes, that would be a flag right then and there. Then there also will be an inspection process.
right.
So we're going to double check that parking when we go on site, just in case for some reason there was some misleading going on. But yes, we work with parking in all the departments at the borough as
Yeah.
needed.
And unless there's an exception, I don't think we need to rehash it here. It took us 2 years to get here. So thank you.
So good, everything's going fairly smoothly.
Mayor wants to talk to you.
Bill, get her a mic.
Had two questions. One, if they're in the area that's zoned for short-term rentals, but they don't meet the parking requirement, like maybe Mr. Flynn said, maybe they only have one space, will they then be automatically dismissed as possible Airbnbs? And then secondly, have you or will you go out to view each Airbnb, potential Airbnb applicant prior to granting them the permit? So we know from the beginning if there's any possible, code violations or infractions, so that they could bring it up to code prior to them getting the permission.
Yes and yes. They will not qualify for the permit if they don't meet the parking requirement. And yes, we will be going out and doing an inspection before the permit is issued.
Great. Thank you.
We're good?
Okay. I'll
All
be
right,
back.
hands allowed back in. Okay, downtown Westchester, fourth quarter report. John O'Brien.
Good evening, John O'Brien, Executive Director, Downtown Westchester. I'll try and be brief as possible. So just a quick event wrap up on major events that we held during the last 3 months of 2024. We held our first annual turkey trot in the downtown on Thanksgiving morning. We had a huge success with the number of runners who signed up. Over 1,100 runners signed up. 652 showed up that night or that morning because it was a rather rainy event, but we still had a lot of enthusiasm. People dressed up as turkeys, a lot of commitments to come back. So we're expecting a big turnout next year as well. We had our small business weekend, which ran that Friday, November 29th to Sunday, December 1st, the weekend right after Thanksgiving. It's our big push for people to shop locally. It was a very cold weekend again, but which probably dampened some customers' desire to come in town. But our retail stores did report a strong sales day. And I did hear specific instances of customers being very happy that there was free street parking that day. Thank you to council for including that. And then finally, our other big event, the Chris Kindle Market, our second one in the downtown, happened on December 14th, ran from 11 a.m. to 7. Once again, it was a very, very cold day, which I thought was going to deter people. But we had huge numbers of people coming to town. A lot of our brick and mortar retail stores reported as strong. We're actually beating last year's sales, which last year was historic, record-breaking for many of them. We got the bill from the borough, which showed a strong amount of people parking in the garages. So that's another data point for us, telling a lot of people came in for the event. So we're very happy with that, and we're going to be talking with the Art Association about what date it'll be in 2025. Most likely the second weekend of the month of December. Just a couple other quick highlights. Big Belly trash cans. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the wraps and everything. The bid did take over some of those sign placards that you see on the side of the Big Belly trash cans. We purchased new signs that advertised our small business weekend. We have some on order right now that should be in the next day or two, which will just be a thank you for shopping locally signs that I will install. My recommendation to council, I know there's been a lot of back and forth about the wraps. If they can be removed and those sign placards can be added, they seem to be a cheaper alternative. Everyone that I opened all of them, they've been installed for years. They all open without any rust issues. So they hold up well. If there's graffiti or other things, the signs are easily replaced. And we're happy to kind of keep that thank you for shopping locally message going. So just in the future, I think that's a good way that we can kind of, whether there's other events people want to advertise or things like that, I think that's a good, more fiscally prudent way to go about handling the Big Belly trash cans. We're not looking at this point to sell advertising space on the side of the trash cans. We're trying to keep it somewhat of a uniform, good downtown aesthetic look on there. Just a couple other quick highlights. The available property right now, our vacancy rate is 3.9%. That was before this meeting started. Our local realtor, Tom Walsh, told me that he leased one of the buildings, one of the floors. So that actually is probably a little bit lower than what it says there. And then just two issues I wanted to highlight to the committee that we faced. This is just kind of one of them is just to put on your radar. PECO was doing work on Market Streets the week right before Thanksgiving, right before Christmas. It caused a lot of angst in the downtown. There was not great communication. Honestly, the way I found out about it and Public Works found out about it was a business owner contacted me and said, hey, I got this notice. Is this happening? And then I talked to Public Works, who had not been informed about it either. We understand it's a state road, but we're just always trying to work on communication with our utility companies, whether it's Aqua or PECO, just to kind of keep us in the loop. And our constant ask, and they're always pretty good about it, whether it's the parking department, if they receive no parking postings, or whether it's Public Works, to just let us know and we can kind of let our businesses know. There was a bakery had an issue where the PECO was going to or shut down their power for an extended amount of time to do a switchover. And they had to fight like hell to try and get a generator because obviously it's one thing to have the street torn up. It's hard to get to the store, but it's another thing when you can't operate right before Christmas, especially in that instance.
So Sean, how far in advance do we get these notices from PECO?
I don't think it's a standard thing. I would have to know what work they were doing. Usually when they know sometimes they'll give us months in advance warning that they're going to be doing work in certain areas, and we find out specifically what block they're going to be on within a couple weeks, and we have warning.
Yeah, that's always the challenge. They are good
If
with
they're
like
keeping
saying,
out-
hey, this project's coming down the pike, but like on Thursday and Friday of this week, we're going to be shutting down one lane to do restoration. And I've learned a lot about restoration of roads that I never thought I would in this role. But they're not the best. And we've worked with Chris Paoli's office to try and get a better handle of this, but I think it's just going to take, if any one department, or if I hear about it, that we all just kind of share the information with one another. It's a state road, and I think, to a degree, we're all beholden to the utility company or the state PennDOT approval on that, and they don't really seem to take much into account before they give their approvals. So, and then just the other item, just to thank you to the staff at Building and Housing and to Sean for resolving the issue related to building inspectors. We had some, unfortunate timing issues where we had like the hotel and a local restaurant who was looking to get some inspections done, and it just happened to coincide when an unforeseen medical issue caused a lack of building inspectors. We always just put that, all these delays always cost our businesses, our small businesses, a lot of money because, a month's time, if it takes to get reopened, that's material cost, that's staff cost, and just uncertainty of when they can start operating. We're always here to kind of help message those things. So if there are those issues or there are problems, I know, however it happened, there was, some of the businesses said they were just told that, we're not sure when it's going to happen. And that sends them into panic mode. So, we're always here if there's a plan to help communicate the plan, and that'll help settle down a lot of the angst. And then just finally, there are a couple of new businesses that are either open or opening. Jolene's, a new French restaurant, should be opening this month. That's located on East Gay Street. Hotel Indigo is open if you've not heard. The Westchester Seafood Restaurant is going to be opening later this month as well. Outlash, which it's on South Church Street. It does beauty services, is now open. Chris Chicken next to Moss on the East 100 block of East Market Street is now open. I just tried that out. It's very good if anybody's looking for a good fried chicken sandwich. And then Beer and Loathing, which is Westchester's newest barcade, which was where Sterling Pig is now open as well.
So I got a couple of questions for
Yep.
you. Well, I'll start with the bottom. Crisp chicken, is that a real chicken or fake chicken? Because the way it's spelled is kind of like the way that it's spelled on fake chicken in the supermarket.
What
So
I
it's like
had was
fake,
very
right?
much real chicken.
Okay. real.
They have another location in Lansdowne, I believe. This is their second location, I believe.
All right. The other thing I wanted to make a comment on, especially because last night someone was complaining that no one came out to the turkey trot to see him in a costume. I'm going to say, correct the record here. Myself and six of my family members did brave the mist and rain, and nary a turkey-clad Bernie did I see here.
Well, as thank you. I did forget that. Mr. O'Brien mentioned the downpour. Well, I wasn't ready for the downpour, and that that paper costume that I bought didn't last very long. It like melted. It was like paper crochet, and so I had to go back home and put some warm clothes on and stuff like that. But it was a fun day. The people were having a great time regardless of the weather.
Yes.
And
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, I did wait.
We want to make it a tradition, so.
We'll be
thank
bringing
you.
it
Yeah.
back on Thanksgiving.
The Scalia Fireside,
Yeah, let's go. Yep.
is that coming or what?
They are coming. I'm not sure what the timeline, that'll be the other half of 44 Westgate Westgate Street. They did, I guess, I haven't been privy to the exact negotiations. They were the original tenant that was going to come in there, seemed to have backed out. They are coming back. The space does require a full build out, as you can see when you walk by the building. So I would not necessarily expect a quick turnaround in terms of occupancy there. Otherwise, the building is 100% occupied. That's just the one space that is currently not.
Yeah, I think they were one of the first, when I first joined council in 2020,
Mhm.
one of the first smart growth applications that I reviewed. So yeah, they move at a snail's pace.
So to that point, the age, 5 years, Mr. Metric, do they have to go all through all the approval processes again? Because, of the time lapse and the zoning and whatever they have to do?
The zoning permit, no. But to do the fit out, that fit out would need to comply with building codes. And we would be most concerned about fire safety in a restaurant setting. So
Everything the council approved in 2020 is still open and ready to go. There's no expiration date on that.
The only time you would key in other kinds of permit approval would be if they wanted to change the use, if they wanted to go to an office use on the first floor, for instance.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. And I have a tentative event calendar for our marquee events coming up. I'll share with the committee. Just ignore there's something that says banner there. That's just an internal note for me to reserve a banner space to advertise the events, if you're wondering.
All right, we'll go to old business, Smart Growth Committee meeting minutes from December 11th, 2024. Any questions, concerns? Nope, we're good. All right, new business. Motion to direct the solicitor to attend zoning hearing 236 West Bernard Street.
Yes. The applicant is appealing a zoning enforcement action regarding a student home, an illegal student home violation.
And we would advise council in all instances of an applicant rejecting the zoning office determination to send the solicitor to oppose the view because it's a repudiation of the zoning officer's ruling.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yep.
Okay with that one.
Okay. Next is a request for a motion to direct the solicitor to attend another zoning hearing board, meeting regarding 323 West Biddle Street. The applicant requests variance relief for building within the rear yard setback. That hearing's scheduled for January 27th, I believe. That's the last Monday in January.
So I have a question on this one. So it has to do with my understanding, they want to build like an addition, and the addition can only technically go so far, but they want to build it a little further. How much further do they want to build it from where they are allowed to build it? Like, how much bigger is it going to be?
We'd have to reference the application. I don't know if we attach the application. It's just the cover letter doesn't state the proposed home road extends into the building setback. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know. I mean,
Since they're looking for a dimensional variance, one of the principles of awarding a variance is that the variance offered would be the minimum required to, in other words, you have to be very parsimonious with your variance. You have to, sorry, dumb word. Just enough, you get just enough to build the thing that you want to build. That's what I meant by that word. So you don't say, you can build anywhere you want in the backyard setback, take up all the 35 feet. You give them just enough to do the thing that they want to do and no more.
okay, so right now we're not sure how much more they actually want.
Principle at play that the zoning hearing board uses, if we're going to give you a dimensional variance, you get just the bare minimum you need to do what you
Send it to me.
Yeah, because I read the application and the whys and all of these things, and if it's not like gonna block anything or be a huge problem or be that much of a variance, right? Like I'm almost like that. If it's going to go out into the middle of the road, of course, no, we don't want that to happen. But if it's reasonable, maybe we should be okay with this.
How many variances and exceptions do we make for these big development projects that are happening? Right? And this is someone that wants to accommodate a child. Just seems ridiculous.
It's like the daycare. Why do we not like children? Wait a minute. There's a theme going on here. No. So yeah. So I mean, I think we need to find out. Actually, I would like to know more information, but if it seems reasonable, I would almost be, if it's not going to hurt anything else, I would almost be like, just let it happen. Right. So how can we get more information on that? And maybe we put it on discussion.
Well, there's an application that outlines the.
But it doesn't say the amount. None of us know how much more they want. I mean, I just asked you that question, so we
That's
need
the
to know. the
cover
answer.
letter. There's an actual,
Yeah, it wasn't in the attachments that we.
wasn't, okay,
received
we'll find
last
out.
week.
We'll find out and get back to you. We should, yes, fine. If not before,
Okay, so we'll put this one on the discussion agenda for
I can
next
reach
week.
out.
Thank you.
Is this okay? Okay, next, okay. Motion to approve HARB applications. There's 4 listed. However, regarding 1 and 2, they both need to be tabled for now. Application number 1 regarding 121 East Market Street, the window replacement, that applicant was a no-show at the HARB meeting. Regarding number 2, 40 East Market Street, a deck, that was a preliminary review at HARB. They need to return to HARB in the future. So the first one for the committee's recommendation will be 144 West Market Street. I have these backwards for the sign. The recommendations from HARB, the HARB recommends approval of a certificate of appropriateness for this application for the new wall-mounted sign as presented with the following clarifications. Number 1, the sign background will be off-white, not stark white. And number 2, the sign anchors shall be drilled into the mortar joints of the brick wall, not into the face of the brick. Is there a picture? Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have any issue with those two? No, we're good with those two.
Okay, great. Okay, number 4, 236 West Gay Street, a window replacement. The board recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness to replace the 4 existing historic wood windows with the following revisions. Number 1, the 4 existing historic wood windows may not be removed and replaced, but shall be restored and repaired in kind as needed and painted. Number 2, new concealed weather stripping may be installed at the window frame and sashes to improve thermal and sound performance. Number 3, at the owner's option, the existing aluminum store windows may be removed, repaired, or replaced with the new aluminum or wood storm windows. That's it.
Any questions on this one? We're good.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
A minute ago. I knew it was there. Thank you. Somewhere.
On the bottom of the plan there, on the bottom of the sheet you're looking at is the frontage on Biddle Street. That's the address of the property. The gray structure is the existing structure. Do you see the maroon? You go up, you just give me a couple clicks to the north there, Bill. Thank you. That maroon is the sunroom area that's going to be added onto the rear of the house. And do you see how that line cuts the sunroom there a little bit and it has 6 feet marked out on the plan? They want to build a sunroom that extends 6 feet into the rear yard setback area.
And there's another structure next to it already?
An existing accessory structure.
So it's not in any, it's just on grass or land or, I mean. Well, reading what I read, it seemed okay to me in general. I just wanted to know. So if you've got eyes on it, you know the process.
Yeah, and I agree with, I mean, I understand what Mr. Metric is saying around, we have to be very clear and specific around what's permitted. Like if they presented 6 and suddenly it's 12,
Mhm.
right? That's a violation. So we want to be very clear that we're approving a 6-foot variance to the current code,
Mhm.
right? And that's what we're expecting to see.
Mhm. I'll let Ms. Camp know she'll be there anyway because of the illegal student home case. So absolutely.
Dorsey, is this the house that's chickens as well? No? Okay.
All right, so 3 okay with 6-foot variance.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll tell
great.
Chris. Thank you. Okay, item number D. Already. Motion to approve contract with Building Inspection Underwriters of Pennsylvania and appoint Kyle Bender, BCO, as Assistant Building Code Official and Assistant Zoning Officer. And that contract was attached. I would like to thank Ms. Reiner. She recommended the organization on very short notice. And we were able to turn around and meet with Mr. Bender within 3 business days. And really didn't miss a beat. The hotel has been inspected as well as Jolene's and the speakeasy under the hotel. Okay, will be inspected next week. So next week we have the final inspection of the hotel, Jolene's and the speakeasy. Both the hotel and Jolene's have received their temporary certificate of occupancy. Next week's their final inspections. But again, I want to thank Ms. Reiner, and I talked to the general contractor today of the hotel, and they've had great things to say about this organization and Mr. Bender. So it's working out quite well.
Any questions? No? All right,
Okay, great.
good.
Okay, item number E, discuss cafe permits, rules and regulations. Mr. Flynn asked to place this on the agenda.
Sure did, because spring is
Yes.
coming. And you will be having almost, I think it's a half hour of daylight next week.
Sorry, yeah.
So we're going towards spring. So I'm
Mhm.
excited about that. The Miss Miss Nicole, I was going to say, I grew up, Miss Simone, thank you. Is new to this thing, and a lot of things have changed. And over the years, and Miss Dorsey can attest to this, the restaurants have taken fair advantage of the borough by putting their platforms wherever the heck they want to put them.
Mhm.
And the one thing that sticks clearly in my mind is that they're not supposed to go outside the footprint of their business. So,
And their approved site plan. Mhm.
yeah, we approve the site plans, but then they build whatever damn they want to build. Because that's happened in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
And so can you briefly just go through the
Sure.
process?
Sure. And yeah, I have some points to condense the process. As you can see, the policy is a bit lengthy. So the first step is the applicants apply now through the portal for their cafe permit. They submit a site plan, which shows the setup. It also shows the occupancy. It also has to show the location of the outside garage can and a picture of the can. It has to reflect a 54-inch egress, which is between the front door of the establishment and where the seating table starts. They have to provide insurance and indemnification if they serve alcohol, which is in the Cafe 2 district. Cafe 1 district, they do not. They have to provide a ramp certification. They also have to, if they're not the property owner, they have to provide a letter of permission from the property owner. And then the codes enforcement goes out and does an inspection prior to them starting. And then we're notified and we do routine follow-up inspections throughout the season. That's to condense the process.
With that said, Kim, all of a sudden got me choked up. The can we physically mark the ground to make sure that they don't exceed the footprint? We have, like I said, we have some people that, like last year, you weren't supposed to go past half
Right.
of Gay Street, the median where the hotel is. And the restaurant on the corner decided that they own the whole corner and pushed everybody around. Now the hotel's there now, so they can't do that.
Do that.
And the, over on Market Street, specifically Mercado, over on that side, they have encroached into Kilwins on both sides the last 3 years, which is not fair. And, you know, everybody deserves their spot. And then we heard from PennDOT about allowing cafes on state highways. That they had to go to PennDOT to ask for permission to do it. And Mr. Ramsey was supposed to look into it to see what was going to go on with that, especially at Mercado right there.
She has, I think we're still waiting on confirmation of that. We went through this last summer and PennDOT did not provide confirmation. They said that, I think it's been discussed is what's happening, and word has gotten out to other municipalities that they're going to do this, but we've yet to find the actual regulation or permit application, and PennDOT didn't have it last year. Right? How would you?
They haven't responded. It looks like it's talked about during COVID. Auto was out last year, from what I understand, they were not, so I called and emailed twice at that, and then John Anderson has also reached out. So we'll have a more definitive answer, but Sally's right that I don't believe they've given us confirmation that it's required. Websites are hard to read.
We're working on it.
The other major problem
Right.
is that 54 inches.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we don't have enforcement people on the weekends when they are mainly in effect. I don't know how we're going to, wheelchairs cannot get down the sidewalk from the corner of Walnut Street down to High Street. They just can't get through. Wheelchairs just can't get through. So they had to go out in the street more often. The street's closed,
Right.
but they're supposed to be able to get through that area. I don't know whether, I know it's not a parking thing, but the parking enforcement people are borough employees. And I don't know whether Mr. Metric wants to cross-pollinate departments, but at least they're on the street until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, every day, where your department is not. So I don't know how you're going to want to, even if you want to even entertain that, Mr. Metric, but at least we have borough employees that, just like a town watch, they don't have to say a word. All they need to do is take a picture and give it to somebody that go through, to your department, to enforcement. You know,
Yeah, we do need to see it. So the parking department would actually have to issue the ticket at the time that it's been seen. Because according to the solicitor, when you issue a ticket, right, in violation, there's an appeal process and it doesn't hold up in court based on someone else's picture. But, you know, I'm happy to discuss options for overtime for existing borough staff with Ms. Reiner and Mr. Metric in advance of the upcoming season.
I mean,
I received those complaints last summer too, so I know exactly what you're
all we
talking
need to
about.
do is crack down a couple times.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be every day,
Mhm.
but you know, once a month, you know, you do a walkthrough
Mhm.
and carry a 3-foot roller, you know, with you, or
Have
a
a-
roller
we
with you.
have a
And if you
stick,
can't walk
rubber
down there,
stick, yes.
yeah, something has to happen.
By them. Mhm.
Yeah, so, you know, those are the two things: exceeding your footprint, and then the enforcement of people that can't walk on the sidewalks.
No, I do hear you. I did meet with Ms. Reiner and Ms. what's his name escaped me, Mr. Edwards, in advance of this, what we could do to improve the process for this upcoming season. And we did talk with Public Works about marking the areas, whether it's chalk or what else can we come up with to actually mark the areas, right? So that it's clear, and that if someone off hours is moving a table or moving a chair, it will be seen. Also requiring photographs up front as part of the permit process, and then having those photographs stored electronically so we can go out, when we do go out to code officers or I receive a complaint, we can compare pictures, right, of what it should look like. And also, you know, we discussed possibly increasing the fines. I know we've talked about that in terms of other codes as well, whether it would be for trash, cafe permit violations, et cetera. I think it should be not piecemeal, like maybe talk in coordination with the trash fines and other fines. You know, do we want to increase them? Do we want to make the penalties a bit more stiff for, you know, violations?
No, we're good.
So we're happy to come back to you with recommendations.
Could I mention two things? One of my other concerns about the cafe and the ordinances and the application process, I don't know how, but it's always the same restaurants. If there's other restaurants on that street, they don't even get an opportunity to have a ramp if they wanted, you know, outdoor eating and have part of the, put the platform there. It's always the same over and over and over again, even if there's 2 or 3 new restaurants that might come in that same vicinity, they don't get an opportunity. And I wonder, how do you address that? And can that be addressed? And then secondly, probably Mercado was allowed because of COVID, but that was one of the reasons why, you know, we wanted Gay Street to be our street, and we switched off. So we didn't have to go through PennDOT to get approval. So they probably have been doing that illegally all these years, and it, you know, all these years, because nobody else on Market Street has a platform there, and they should probably not either have one on Market Street at all. Not to mention they extend it, and, you know, they take over the whole corner.
First come, first serve.
Yeah, I really think we need to look at that for the restaurants, because it just sets a precedence of it really being unfair.
I
I
think
mean,
this,
Limoncello's takes up most of the block now, but there is still another restaurant there. Didn't they reopen, or did they not?
yeah, I do think that this came up, I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, but we did make an exception. I think the ordinance says, you know, only 2 on a block or
Right,
whatever,
for
or
dining
1 on a
platforms,
block,
too. Yep.
2, whatever it was. We did have someone apply, and we made an exception. We allowed them to do it. And I don't know if it was Limoncello and it's Beer Hall now, but it was something else before then. Split Rail, yeah, thank you. But we did make an exception. And I think that's how you handle it, right? On a case by case basis.
Right, and I'll defer to Ms. Reiner, because based on my tenure, I just started next spring, but I was informed by staff that there usually isn't more than 2 restaurants per block that are applying for dining permits. Is that correct? That it hasn't really been an issue. Right, so I mean, I don't think there was any denials this past summer.
And there's a cost associated with the restaurant that's applying, right? They have to buy the platform, right? There's an expense associated with.
is.
So some want to do that and some don't. They just want to be on the
sidewalk,
sidewalk,
which is not-
right?
Yes, which does
Right.
not have a fee. I think the fee, again, Mr. Reiner confirms like $7,000 for the dining, isn't it? Oh. Okay.
So,
Yes, many just choose the sidewalk.
correct.
All right, Sean wanted to say something.
Well, we've been talking about this. There's opportunities for businesses to use parking spaces for this that are limited to 2 per block. There is opportunity for all businesses to use sidewalk areas. And then we were talking also about the Gay Street Market, which kind of has another rule set that goes with it. I'll share my opinion that limiting 2 to block because of parking supply, which is the reason why it's stated overtly in the rules and regs why there's only supposed to be 2 per block. I think we've got spaces in the garage is my point. You could do more than 2 a block. You could eliminate that regulation. And then I have a question for John. Do you know of, and I'm going to put you on the spot, do you know of any business owner, restaurant owners who are like, darn, I wish I could have a platform, but there's 2 on the block already?
Yes, I'm glad the mayor brought it up because that was, I think we're both referring. Taco Mar has inquired before. I think they've spoken to you as well about doing one. You know, building a platform is about $20,000. At least it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Material costs have gone up because of all the requirements on the brick, the steel frame, the fencing, et cetera. So it's not, that's the actual build cost of it. And then there's the rental. I would suggest, I've read the ordinance. I'm pretty sure that the only time it talks about the 2 per block is in this document, which is outside of an ordinance. So it is a little bit more fungible for you. So that is something that I would suggest. The other thing that I would have council look at, the 54 inches of clearance is very important. I mean, I'll tell you, I go around in the summertime with a ruler, or I mean, with my tape measure, literally walk around and talk to all the businesses who are in violation. I don't have any power to cite anybody. So that's, you know, and somewhat they know that. Interpretation has always generally been made in the last 4+ years that I've been in this role, that the 54 inches of clearance is just that you have to have 54 inches of clearance on the sidewalk. So that means you could have table, 54 inches of clearance, tables. So I just, with what I heard from Sally, you know, there's always been, you know, between what this document says and what's actually enforced, just making sure that's all on the same page. My recommendation would just be 54 inches of clearance, and making sure that they're held to that. I would also say, just since I have the mic real quick, I know we talked about like the Gay Street shutdown and what restaurants do. That is outside of this document. We've kind of, for the last couple of years, just kind of created an informal rules document. I don't know how much that's tied to the borough's enforcement abilities, fines, et cetera, what, you know, building housing's authority, if they ran into trouble, that they could say to these businesses. I think we should look to more with a longer term view to codify what we want the Gay Street rules to look, instead of just doing kind of an ad hoc thing year by year, and creating something a little bit more like this for that closure, that might give building and housing and everybody a better idea of what the enforcement, what the rules are going to be year from year. Because we started as a COVID measure, and honestly, we've just kind of done it every year. We've tweaked it here or there. But if we're going forward and keeping the Gay Street closure as a permanent fixture, I think we need to kind of focus outside of this, a document that explains that more thoroughly, and that could be for the next several years. Thank you.
All right. Come on up. Any more thoughts? Any more thoughts that you have on this one? No. All right. So Okay, so it sounds-
Suggestions, absolutely.
sounds like we need to look at the code. So I think that's our next step. It sounds like process is that we need to look at the code in the summertime when people actually have applied and are out there. We need to make sure we're enforcing things. And you guys are going to talk about that, different ways to make sure things are enforced. So yeah, Sean, I guess the next step and Sally, both of you, next step is for us maybe to get together offline and look at this code a little bit more closely and think about what we want to present and I guess with Kristen, solicitor stuff. Okay.
I mean, the code or this policy?
The code that goes with the policy.
Okay.
For both, it sounds like not Gay Street and potentially is there a way to incorporate either Gay Street into the current code that there is and make it like one big thing and or have a separate one for the open air market? Yeah. I bet you we can probably make one big one.
The open air market, and Mr. O'Brien will attest to this, that there's not a lot of restaurants in certain areas. Like, for example, if you look at Ryan's Pub,
Mhm.
Ryan's Pub, there's no restaurants on either side of them
Right.
or across the street from them. So in order, so you don't have a lot of dead spot, those guys were allowed to extend further into the street.
Oh, okay.
So, and then when you get down by Taco Mar, from Matlack all the way up to Taco Mar, there's nothing other than Taco Mar.
Mhm.
And then you have two businesses there that compete for everything.
Okay.
The Social and Avalon, Bar Avalon.
Where,
Ta-
I'm sorry, are you,
The Taco Mar, I don't know whether he ever wanted to have a platform, but he's fenced in
Okay.
by other businesses and by a fence. So
Well, he's also been in the street. I mean, I've eaten at Taco Mar in the middle of Gay Street. Like he's put
Yeah.
tables out
Yeah,
there.
I
So
know he's
I don't
put
know
tables-
if he
yeah.
was able to clear up the situation and
well,
claim his
on the
stake.
weekends, it's wide open
Right.
because everything's shut down and we want as much activity in the street as we can get because we don't want dead spots to make it look like it's half-assed. So.
so there are several restaurants right around Taco Mar. There's Nashville Chicken right there. There's the pasta place, I forgot the name. And across,
Dolce Zola, delicious,
yes, that's it. Across the street, there's Roots.
delicious.
And then there's, right up the street, there's Bar Avalon. So there's several restaurants in that block, but the only two people who seem to always get the platforms are Social and Bar Avalon.
I think Roots, probably because they have that back garden and they also are not open for dinner. So that's probably why they're not really pushing for anything.
Right.
But Taco Mar, definitely I've eaten in the middle of the street for them and Dolce Zola, I've eaten in the middle of the street there as well. So I think they've been able to get, I'm assuming they've been able to get their applications in or do whatever they needed to do to be able to get their tables out in the street. So I think they're okay.
And they may be, but my only point is the process needs to give everyone an equal opportunity, period.
Yeah.
It
that I
should not, we should not be favoring specific restaurants, even though they may be our favorites. We shouldn't, from a equal opportunity availability to do business, we should not be favoring them. That's all.
We'll look at the code offline and make some changes to be more equitable and to also just look at the rules and see what's really realistic and what makes the most sense, because it sounds like there's some antiquated rules in there.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Bernie, for bringing that up.
Okay, item number F, discuss owner occupied rental permits requirement. Bill, could you, oh, you're already on it. Thank you. So this definition has come up several times this year. And both Mr. Metrick and Ms. Camp directed me to put this on the agenda to get direction from first the committee and then possibly overall council as council sets policy in terms of interpretation. So you can see the definition here: any dwelling unit which is occupied by someone other than the owner of the property, as determined by the most current deed and for which the owner of the said property received any value, including but not limited to money or the exchange of services. So this code has been interpreted in two different ways over the past 5 years. Prior to 2020, the interpretation by the director at the time and the zoning officer was, if you're the owner of the property and you're not living there full time, you need a rental permit. It's very straightforward. Since 2020, there was another director that took over, and he interpreted the ordinance differently, that he did not require a rental permit for owners who do not live there full time. So we're looking for direction from this committee and then overall council on how they would like us to interpret the ordinance, the code.
Yeah, I think you sent an email on this one as well. I mean, my thought is right now we should continue with the strict interpretation. We don't know where everybody's living. We have a lot of work to do, and so to not get these permits and this data and this information so that we're better at making sure everyone's safe and where they live and doing the right things.
Because that will
you know,
require
I
an
think,
inspection.
yeah. So I lean towards the more, Sean, yeah, you gotta come. I lean towards the more strict enforcement though.
What the ask is we would create an ordinance amendment to change this definition so it's clear, so we don't have to have the people that do these jobs later don't
Got
have to relitigate this idea again.
Sure.
I agree with Ms. Simone. Shamoni. And I'll tell you why. What's happening is investors, being the parents,
Mhm.
are buying houses and putting initially their children in the house and not living in the house. At least they should have charge their family $1 to live there with a permit so we can make sure that it's safe. It's all about safety. Because, and then that's cropping up all over the place in the borough where they're taking advantage of the loophole. So if you're not an owner living in the property
Full time.
full time, it's considered, in my world, a rental.
Okay.
So.
That's what we needed to hear. You agree? Okay. All right, thanks. Well, we'll work with Ms. Camp on an ordinance amendment, just clearing up any ambiguity.
I
So
think if
that,
it's okay with the committee, what we could do is take this recommendation for what we've called in our memo a strict interpretation. And that way, next week, if the rest of council agrees with that, the motion would read something like direct the solicitor to prepare amendment to ordinance amendment to chapter 66. And we could get it going and get the hearing going.
Well, that sounds good to me. Yeah. Any public comment before we? No? All right. Yes? No? Yeah. Come on up, Ann.
No, I agree with you. I think it should be the strict interpretation, but I do want to be careful. And I will look very carefully at this drafted new thing if it occurs. But I am very concerned about this idea of people buying houses and putting their kids in it. Because if it's one kid, it becomes 2 kids. They may have 4 kids. They could have quadruplets for all I know. And that's still the same burden on the neighborhoods. And I think some serious thought has to be given to that because they are unsupervised young folk. So I am glad you were sticking with the strict interpretation, but I would love to see if you're going to allow that to happen, that parents can buy a house and throw their kids in it, that there be some kind of limitation, because especially when they are students, young people, indeed, we've been having trouble with the 4 unrelateds. So I just tight, really, really tight definition, and keep in mind that students are students, whether they have parents who bought a house for them, good for them, or not. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, cool. All right, so yes, Sean, have Kristen write something up, share it with us for next week. All right, cool. All right, any other business? No, no, no. Okay. We're adjourned at 7:16. Thank you.